What happens when you combine Valheim with Zelda?
For you shall have nothing else to survive. No food or comfort. The bow, the shield, and the blade. For in the fog, weakness is a feast for the mighty.
Well, we might be finding out fairly soon in this upcoming co-op survival RPG, which is a mouthful to say, but Enshrouded, a game that looks very interesting. Let's get into exactly what this game is, what we've seen, and get some gameplay footage, because we got a reveal trailer and some of it looks good, some of it not so much, but let's take a look. The aforementioned combination of Valheim and Zelda isn't coming out of nowhere. It's actually something that was mentioned by Keen Games, the team that is creating Enshrouded, the co-op survival for up to 16 players, revealed recently that should be going into early access later this year, that you can currently wishlist on Steam. But it's a little bit more than those two games. In fact, if you're a fan of EverQuest, you may see some familiar things, or at least hear a familiar term. Although it may bring about some grave disappointment if you're like me and you actually enjoyed EverQuest Landmark and you were looking forward towards EverQuest Next. Just a forewarning here that you may be crying by the end of this. Sorry EverQuest fans. Gameplay wise, Enshrouded looks very intriguing, promising some of the hallmarks of survival games like Valheim with crafting, hunting, woodcutting, and the likes. But in short order, during the trailer, we get some interesting combat for a survival game like this. Dodging, stuns, magic spells, special leaping attacks, and what looks like much more. In the reveal trailer, we get to see what looks like a specialization tree too, something hinted at in the description of the game as follows. Join with friends in 16-player co-op gameplay. Carve out unique roles and complementary skills that will prove your worth in battle as together you raid, gather treasure, and overcome the fell hordes that ravage the land. In the brief little view we get of the skill tree, we get to see two skills, one that looks like a sneak attack and another one that looks like a teleport. And I'm eager to see more of what this skill tree has to offer. Now granted, this little snippet does look like it's kind of a small skill tree, so I wouldn't expect anything like Path of Exile, but it's at least kind of interesting to see that we might get some kind of choice in what we do, especially in a co-op game where certain skills may be complementary to others. You know, kind of like an MMO. It definitely sounds like the game is more in line with the PvE of Valheim and less so the PvP of older survival co-op games. In fact, I didn't even see any mention of PvP, so it's definitely not like something that they're highlighting. I mean, hell, you can even glide in this game. Perhaps that's where the Zelda part comes in. That and the breaking of vases. The visuals themselves aren't necessarily something to write home about, but there's some interesting things going on in the trailer beyond the combat. The building looks to be highly customizable as we see the players snap the wall into place on a foundation section by section, then go on to create windows to their specific size. We later see the placement of a bed and a handsomely decorated abode, but that's not all. Some of the structures we see are absolutely massive. It looks like the building aspect of this game will be able to make some pretty impressive things if you're not shit at it like I am. I'm gonna start here now. I'm recruiting anyone who's good at building. If you wanna come build stuff on a server with me, and then I can just bring the stuff like the fighty stuff, and we kill those things, and you build the stuff. Let's go. But this is the moment. This is the moment where I need to warn you. If you are still suffering from the failure of Landmark and EverQuest Next, you may want to cover your ears for this next word. Voxel. Voxel based. Voxels may be familiar to fans of the EverQuest series as they were talked about in depth when EverQuest Landmark and EverQuest Next were in development. And that's on full display here as the world and structures take damage and we see players digging deep tunnels and holes. They're describing it a bit like Minecraft, but more grown up, when it comes to the building portions of the game at the very least. If you're keeping count, that means we've got name drops for Valheim, Zelda, and Minecraft. Not bad for contemporaries, right? Pretty big games, pretty big shoes to fill. It's kind of weird thinking that Valheim is now in not necessarily in that league, but it is still a big shoe to fill, right? They did so well with an early access game. They kind of set the tone. A destructible world is part of what makes these games so interesting in the first place, but a destructible world that's actually designed, not just procedurally generated, it could lead to some interesting secrets specifically designed by the dev team, like perhaps uncovering some of these deep caverns we see in the trailers and their challenging enemies. And that, again, to reiterate, this game is not procedurally generated. It is a crafted world, kind of the opposite of Valheim, and more like Zelda. But speaking of challenging enemies, they're challenging enemies with lore behind them. More than just a basic premise, there's a story here. The realm of Embervale is lost. In their greed for magical power, your ancestors unleashed a pestilence that consumed the world. The gist of the story is that a deadly fog has been unleashed, and the only safe areas are up on the tops of the mountains, where you begin your journey with little more than the will to survive. From here, you venture downward to uncover mysteries, grow in strength, and battle the corruption. You won't be doing this alone though, and that's even if you don't have player friends to join you, as the website mentions that NPCs will join you in your structures, taking refuge as you unlock advanced workshops and the ability to craft epic weapons and armor. It's still early, and the nature of these games probably means that the early access we get is going to be in a rough state. At this point, I see Valheim as more of an anomaly with its successful early access launch, but who knows, maybe Enshrouded will be the next big early access survival co-op success. And we won't have to wait too long for it because I believe that it should be coming out this year in early access. The bones are certainly there, and as someone who loved the voxel mechanics in EverQuest Landmark, I'm excited to see where this game goes. Enshrouded caught my eye because it's kind of like this survival game that straddles the line with RPG and almost MMO. A game that has a decent number of players with up to 16 per server, with really heavy PvE elements and RPG elements like, getting new armor and things like that. But that's not the only game like this that I'm super excited about. There's another game that, if it's not delayed, we should also be getting this year, called Nightingale.
You're alone in the realms, I'm afraid. The portals are a mess. Not even sure if Nightingale made it. Given how fragile you humans are, I'd say that staying fed, dry, and rested should be your priority. If the portal arch is inactive, you'll need to make realm cards from rare resources. Once you have realm cards, you can activate the portal. Beware though.
Nightingale has a bit more of a steampunk feel to it. In fact, a lot more of a steampunk feel to it, Victorian steampunk. And if you're interested in that, I did a video on it here, and I really encourage you to check it out because that's looking like a really cool game. If you enjoyed this video, please consider sharing it on somewhere like Reddit or your favorite forums or Discord server. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.